So I finally delved into the world of manga, and I know what you're thinking. Was it Berserk? Was it Dragon Ball? Was it Death Note? No, it was about the cup noodle. Woof woof! Hey mad dogs, thank you for tuning in. So yeah, this video is going to be all about the food. Let's try that again. Woof woof! Hey all you mad dogs, thank you for tuning in. So this video, yeah, like the title says, is going to be all about the first manga that I've ever read. And that of course is Project X Challenger's Nissin Cup Noodle. Written and illustrated by Tadashi Keto. I'm sorry if I'm pronouncing that incorrectly, I'm not too familiar with it, so I've tried my best. But you might recognise this from an earlier video where I talked about my omnibus whales, because this is a book that I've wanted for absolutely ages. I remember seeing this on iFanboy when it got brought up as one of the top 5 desert island books that they'd take with them, and it just sounded like something that interested me for a while. I didn't see it as a manga, I just saw it as a book that I wanted to read, but unfortunately I could never get my hands on it. But after seeing my previous video, my amazing girlfriend somehow managed to track it down, and I'm grateful for it. And I know what you're thinking, that that's amazing of her, but trust me, she's got this ulterior agenda. She's had it from day one, where she's trying to turn me into a manga guy, and it kind of worked. And for those of you who don't want to watch the full video, I'm going to do this in most of my reviews, but the long and short, yeah, I'd recommend it. It was a good read, it was quite funny. And please don't forget to leave a like if you're planning on leaving now. But this came out as a series of mangas that were all about the Project X challenges, so it was taking different kind of areas in history where business kind of progressed massively. So he talked about the first Japanese sports supercar, he talked about how 7-Eleven migrated over to Japan, and this one is all about how cup noodle was invented by the food production company Nissin. Now it's weird reading this because across the world we've got all different kinds of cup noodle variations. In the UK in particular we've got pot noodle, and I haven't done a lot of research into what you've got across the globe. But this looks at the product at its inception when they didn't really have anything to go off. It was kind of innovative. Everybody told them it wouldn't work. But the most important lesson about this book, and I've believed it for years, and finally I've got something that can solidify this belief, but it's not about the story you're telling, it's about the way you tell it. Now ramen was a massive industry in Japan, and Nissin were the first company to really bring that home to everybody across the country. But then within a couple of years, everyone was doing ramen, so all of a sudden Nissin was finding themselves in a place of financial struggle. They didn't have that product that set them apart from everybody, so the director and the CEO of the company said that they need to make something new. They need to make something that hasn't been made before. So he came up with the idea of a cup that was full of ramen that you could just put hot water in, leave it for 3 minutes, and you could carry it around and eat it. It sounds crazy considering how much of a staple of daily life that is for both myself and I'm sure for a lot of other people. But so much went into this that I wasn't even aware of. So the chapters are split into kind of like the development stages of the product. So it's split into 7 chapters and an epilogue, and the first one's all about the project, getting the team on board, showing you that there's this kind of like Expendables team of people who aren't doing too well at the job, but they think they have the brains and the skills enough to bring this new product to market.
You son of a bitch, I'm in!
And they've all got something different about them that kind of, as the story goes on, you start to realise why that person in particular was brought on the team. The second chapter is all about the container development, and my god, I didn't realise how many different kind of containers they could have possibly fathomed for what eventually became the cup noodle that we all know and love. Even though it was early in the story, this might have actually been my favourite part of the development. There were so many times he just kept going back to the director and saying, is this good enough? And he'd just try one thing and he'd just throw it away to the side and say he needed to do better. And one of my favourite scenes in this is when they bring quite a wide container, and obviously with the cup noodle they're meant to be able to walk around and eat it. And the director just disregards it because he says that they haven't catered to people with small hands, and I'm not really doing it justice. This story is so funny all the way throughout. You've then got the development of the noodles, and you didn't realise how much went into that because they kept having the problems where it might be cooked on the top or in the bottom, but it was still raw in the middle. So they tried so many different variations just to see what worked. And weirdly, the biggest part of the struggle actually came with the toppings, which is something most people kind of disregard when it comes to a cup noodle. So do you know how you've got your dry foods in them? So you've got like kind of carrots and peas and stuff like that. Well, the director of Nissin really wanted there to be shrimp in it. He wanted there to be some kind of shrimp that could kind of set this product apart because it had quite a high retail price of 100 yen. And I actually had to check how much that cost in the year when this came out, because it was around about the 60s and the 70s when they were developing everything, so food technology wasn't really where it's at now. And this shrimp issue caused so many problems for the product. Like, They'd probably set the product back by about a year just because they couldn't get this shrimp to work. But the director was so adamant that he wanted it, and it was nice just seeing somebody stick to the guns and have a belief that they believed in so truly that even if the rest of the team didn't know why they were doing it, they still made them do it and push them further along. And the last few chapters of the book are all about getting the product off the ground. So once they made it, how difficult was it to really get people to like it? And the epilogue, genuinely, it almost had me in tears because you've seen how much of a struggle they've had to go through just to get this product through the door. And then there was struggle whilst they got it out the door. And then by the end, it kind of spoils it on the beginning. It says the miracle of 8.2 billion served. And I genuinely couldn't believe that because every year, annually, 8.2 billion cup noodles are sold. That's baffling to me. So to be able to see all the struggle that they went through, to worry about losing the jobs, to worry about not having a family to go back to not seeing the family for years, to some of them having to relocate just so that they could get this stupid shrimp to work, to then finally have it pay off at the end. It was just such a great story. I really enjoyed this cover to cover, and it isn't that long of a read. Like, I can probably see myself rereading this quite soon because I had such a good time. The main component about this is, and I've heard it's quite unusual for a manga to be based on a true story, but weirdly this is a manga based on a true story, but it's written like a normal manga. One of my favourite panels within the book was when Kazo, one of the guys who's like the head of like the toppings and the container development, so you spend quite a lot of time with him, he was trying to figure out how he can get this shrimp to work. And then in one panel, as if he's summoning Molnar, he just goes freeze drying, and there's lightning coming down, and it's as if he's kind of activated some kind of superpower. It's written in such a way that it's enjoyable despite the fact that the story is actually quite sad in a lot of parts. But I was looking forward to reading this before I knew I'd ever have it. I looked forward to it as soon as my girlfriend surprised me with it, and I enjoyed it thoroughly as I was going through. It's one of the only things where the hype that I brought into a story has actually paid off on top of what I was already expecting. Particularly if you're a history buff, this is a book that you would love because it's got tons of just information in the back. You can see the design of the cup noodle throughout the years. You get to see pictures of the actual characters in real life, the way the ingredients are balanced, and sort of like a trajectory of what happened and how we got to where we are today. It's a book that is also written for history files, for people who just absolutely love when a story is telling a true story correctly. This is definitely a book for you, and I wish I could get the rest of the line now. When it comes to reviewing any kind of book, especially when there's art involved, it's hard not to talk about the illustration. This is one of the things that mainly turned me off getting into manga for a long amount of time, and honestly, when it comes to Cup Noodle, it was more about the story rather than it was the art. It's got a really nice clean style, don't get me wrong, it just very rarely seeked to actually impress me. The only times where it really did that was when it was showing an item, or when it was showing a location, or a crowd of people. Those were the only times when I was actually ever really impressed and took actual notice of the art. Because for the most part, it's just close up of faces as they're talking, but at the end of the day, I didn't really care if that's what I was there for. I was there for the story. It just would have been a little bit nicer if the art could have done something more to impress me. Now, the characters in this were great. Like I said, my main one was probably Kazo, because he's the one that we follow for the most part, but you do get to see other members of the Nissin group, and as they are trying to like actually get this product off the ground. And as well, I liked when we got to see a character that wasn't really necessarily important to the whole thing. Like, there was a cleaner at one point that just contributed a little bit of an idea, and all of a sudden it came together. It really built into that idea that this was more luck that this product got out for the door, and sheer resilience, rather than the idea actually having legs to begin with. But at first I didn't necessarily like the director, I just thought he was there for comedic relief, but as soon as the product actually got off the ground, he actually seemed to become a better character. So to summarise, I absolutely loved this book. I wish it was still in print so that more people could read it, and I wish I could get the rest of the series. This is great not just as a manga but as a story in general, and I'm honestly surprised that this hasn't had a film before. I'd recommend picking this up if you're into your true stories and you're into like stories of success. This was really inspiring, it was really heartwarming, and there was parts in this where I was genuinely laughing out loud, which not many books actually get me to do. But I know what you're thinking, even with this title, you might have wanted to watch this because you wanted a review of the cup noodle. Well, you're in luck, I've got one right there. So when it comes to the cup noodle itself, I normally go for the chicken variety. It's quite nice but a bit swampy at the bottom. Now when I'm comparing the cup noodle to the actual book, now it does take less time to actually get through the cup noodle product than it does the book itself, but not by much, because the manga was a really quick read, and I normally like to wait with my cup noodles. I like to give them not just 3 minutes but more like 5, so that the noodles can get a bit thicker. So the cup noodle product actually beats the manga when it comes to time to consume. And as well, I definitely wouldn't recommend eating this book, especially with how rare it's become. But I've got to say, I was left with a warmer feeling after I'd read the manga than when I'd ate the food. I prefer the British variety of the pot noodle over this, but this was a nice film little bit of a change. Now with this being my first manga, you might have clicked on this solely because you read the title and you wanted to know how to get into manga. Now for me, like I said, it's something that I haven't done in years and years and years. Like, I honestly don't know if my collection is complete because I don't have the Akira box set. But with the slim chance that you don't already know, a manga is actually read back to front in the way that we do it. And admittedly, even though I'm going to sound like an idiot to seasoned manga readers, I did struggle with it a little bit at first because I didn't realise that the pages still read right to left. So even with the panelling, you'd read it so that you'd go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, which given my years and years of reading comics, it just took a little bit of getting used to. Given how much I enjoyed this story though, if you've had a manga in mind that you've wanted to read for ages, I definitely recommend doing it. One of the differences that I've noticed between manga and traditional US comics is that these tend to just get on with the story a lot quicker. There's not as much narration, especially when you compare to like Gold and Silver Age Marvel comics. And the dialogues very rarely for exposition, it's mainly just to get the story across. I feel like manga is more about the story though than it is about the art, so if you're particularly someone who enjoys their art, it's not necessarily going to be the best getting into this. It might be the case that as I read more manga, I might find different ones that I like the art for, but given this as my first impression, the art itself didn't really blow me away. Especially when you compare it to someone like Jim Lee or Alex Ross, this is never really going to beat it in the art department. But you know what, having read that and having heard what people have said about other forms of manga, I am definitely going to stick with this, and hopefully it's going to be a journey that can continue through this channel. This channel's all about all my hobbies, all the things that I enjoy. It's Mad Dog Comics and entertainment, so you know, I'm getting into manga and I'm going to be reviewing that. I like TV shows, I'm going to start doing retrospectives of that. Anything you want to see that you think I might enjoy, leave it in the comment section below and I'll give it a try. But that's my review on my first manga, and I had a great time, and hopefully you've had a good time watching this video. Comment below if you've read this book or what your first manga might have been. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up, and if you didn't like this video, why did you get this far? Subscribe if you haven't already. When we get to 100, I'm going to do a room tour, and check out some of my other videos. But stay safe and keep reading, all you mad dogs.